Honestly, we are facing code red situation.
That the people who are in power are looking at us and looking at the future that's coming for us, and they're saying, no, we are not going to act on this.
The political class has known about this problem since at least the late 80s, and in that 30 years, emissions have gone up by 60%, and the extinction rate has only accelerated.
And our government is complicit in this. They know, and they have known for 30 years, for longer, that we are heading for this disaster path, and they consider resources like capital, imaginary money, more important than food for all of us.
Six years ago, I quit my salaried job because I had come to realise it was a climate emergency. I'd seen this graph back in 2007 of the Arctic ice starting to melt. I heard the scientists saying that the Arctic ice is the canary in the coal mine, and the canary just died, but that was back in 2007. I've been working on campaigning on climate since 2007, and I would have to say I've tried pretty much everything, and I'd have to say I didn't have a lot of hope that we could win, really, until Extinction Rebellion came along. So look, the toxic system has been killing people all over the world for centuries, but what was happening now is that we're actually in a situation where the toxic system is very close to actually killing us all. So this is what Extinction Rebellion is about. My job in Extinction Rebellion is doing a talk called Heading for Extinction and What to Do About It, and it talks not just about the extinction of all the wild creatures that we are killing off. We are in the midst of the sixth mass extinction, which is to do with the natural world that we depend on. But we are actually risking extinction of the whole human race.
The science is clear and the evidence is stark. Climate change is real. I joined Extinction Rebellion because I've tried everything else. Joining rallies, writing and emailing politicians, nothing works. According to a political scientist, Erica Chenoweth, it only takes 3.5% of the population to participate in non-violent civil disobedience to bring on some social change. That is part of the reason why I joined Extinction Rebellion. And we must include all the other communities, our First Nation people, minority and marginalized groups must join us in this cause. I have been arrested twice, once in December 2017 at the central Queensland. I locked my neck to the gate of the Adani mine to promote awareness that this mine can never be allowed to go ahead because it would damage the Great Barrier Reef, the environment, and it does not make sense that our government is going to offer Adani mine 60 years of free water. So that's no-go. We need you to join the rebellion. Your loved ones, your children, your grandchildren need you to affect change for a livable, sustainable planet. The current government is not going to do anything. We know that. So we have to join the rebellion and affect change. We want to reject the loss of biodiversity and the probable extinction of human. We can no longer wait for miracles from above. We have to act because there's a climate and ecological crisis. Extinction Rebellion. Rebel for life. We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. And to the climate deniers in power, we say, we will stop you. Thank you, I love you all. You may call me Granny.
Let's give it up for the badass Granny. This next tune is called Murder Commit. This is what the government's doing to our environment.
I personally became active after being awoke to the effects of the climate emergency on the Great Barrier Reef. There are of course other factors apart from the warming of the ocean, so beef feedlots, runoff from farms, sunscreen from tourists, boating, shipping, and mass overfishing. But the heating ocean is the main cause of coral bleaching and death. I first dived the Outer Reef and Coral Sea in 2011. It was absolutely beautiful. The Great Barrier Reef was one of the best sites of hard coral on the planet. Absolutely incredible. I went back again in 2016, went for my first dive off the boat, came back, gobsmacked. I got off the boat and I was just like, what has happened? And the people on the boat, they were told not to say anything to the tourists because they didn't want people to know the extent of the problem. And I was like, it looked like a nuclear bomb had gone off down there. It was so sad. 50% of the great corals on the Great Barrier Reef are now dead. What was once a natural wonder is now completely decimated. So the Great Barrier Reef contributes $6.4 billion to the Australian economy every year, 64,000 jobs and about 2 million visitors. The Queensland Government, they have approved the Adani coal mine. Let me tell you a bit about it. So the land is located west of Mackay. Yep, very close to the Great Barrier Reef. This is going to mean the end to the reef. The mine is going to need a coal port and a railway line, and this is where the greatest danger to the reef lies. Burning coal is the single biggest contributor to climate change. The mine is going to draw millions of litres of water from the Great Artesian Basin. This water is our most precious resource. There are 6 proposed open cut mines, so it's not just going to be one mine. There's going to be 6 proposed open cut and 5 underground mines. The lifespan of the mine is going to be 25 to 60 years. So it's estimated that the mine is going to generate $16.5 billion over the lifetime of the mine. This could be earned from less than 3 years of a healthy barrier reef. So climate change affects fish. The water temperature moderates their body temperature. Warmer oceans can affect important biological processes of fish growth, reproduction, swimming ability, and behaviour. I witnessed Nemo without an anemone. His anemone had died. He was a climate refugee. He wouldn't have lived long after I saw him. Parts of the reef that were the best dive sites in the world for hard coral are completely gone. Turtles are the most vulnerable to climate change. Whenever they lay their eggs on the sand on the beach, if the sand is too hot, then they're all born female. So it's going to alter the sex ratio of the population. Of course, it's not just coral reefs that are threatened. Our sisters and brothers in the Pacific Islands, the sea levels there are set to rise by 1 to 4 feet by 2100. And we all saw the news recently at what Scott Morrison basically bullied them into downgrading what they said was a complete emergency. There were over 1,750 fires burning in the Amazon rainforest. These are our lungs and they're on fire. They were intentionally started by logging companies and beef feedlots. They're not farmers, they're beef producers on an industrial scale. 1 in 6 species are at risk of extinction. They're either going to need to move or adapt, and at the speed that things are changing, adaptation is not possible. We're seeing more and more heavy precipitation events, more flooding. We're going to experience more drought and heat waves. Our government lacks a credible national climate policy. to drive down greenhouse gas pollution. We're in fact the third biggest contributor to climate change as we dig up and burn so much coal. We're not on track to meet the 20 to 28% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2030, set by the IPCC. And it's not our politicians who are going to suffer, right? They're the rich, they're the privileged. They're going to be okay for a while. It's the most vulnerable in society, the elderly, the pregnant, the young and the sick. The cost of inaction on climate change far outweighs the cost of cutting pollution. I'm calling each and every one of you to action. This is your future, this is your children's future and the future of your family. Join Extinction Rebellion, stand with us. We're a non-violent direct action movement and we're fighting for the future of mankind and planet. There is no planet B, no second chance. The oceans are rising, no more compromising. The oceans are rising, no more compromising. The oceans are rising, no more compromising.
From being a very obedient, good girl who works at a university and does the right things and gets her taxes in on time, to being somebody who a couple of weeks ago got arrested on a bridge for sitting in the middle of the road and stopping traffic. Oh, thanks. No, don't clap. I don't think I deserve it. I think that this is actually the least that somebody like me can be doing at this point in time. So basically, I think for a long time, like most people, I've been aware of what's been going on with the climate. I've heard about what the scientists have had to say about climate change, and for a long time I've believed it. But for a long time I've also found a bunch of reasons why it's probably going to be okay and I probably don't need to do anything about it. And some of those reasons were cynical reasons like, oh, people are just sort of bad anyway, why bother? And some of those reasons were, oh, I'll probably be dead by the time it really has any huge impact, so why would I bother doing anything? But I've come to realise that the fundamental reason why it's taken me so long to do anything about this is because in my heart of hearts, I had faith in the system that we're part of. I believed deep down inside, even though I was cynical about our politicians and all the rest of it, there was a part of me that believed that there was no way that they would not do something about things that were this serious. I thought that at the end of the day, when faced with the facts about what's going on, the people who we elected to protect us and to look after our interests would protect us and look after our interests. But I've realised after the last election in particular that that is not going to happen. That the people who are in power are looking at us and looking at the future that's coming for us and they're saying, no, we are not going to act on this. So it's going to take us to get up and do something before anything is going to change. It's going to take me sitting on a bloody bridge in the middle of the day and a whole bunch of other people along with me. And I think it's really important for me to say every time I talk about that arrest that I am one of the people who is most able to do that action. So anybody who feels that they can, I hope that this is the time that we all start to stand up and say, if the people who are supposed to look after us are not going to look after us, then the people who can do something to send a message that it's not good enough need to be able to stand up and do that. Yeah. So, Extinction Rebellion, come and join us. Thank you.
I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're all gathered here today on stolen land. First peoples of this nation have never ceded their sovereignty, and I'd like to pay our respects to the traditional owners, the people of the Kulin Nations, and to their elders past, present and emerging. My name is Brad from Westside. I joined Extinction Rebellion because I genuinely believe it is our last best hope of avoiding a climate catastrophe. The political class has known about this problem since at least the late 80s, and in that 30 years emissions have gone up by 60% and the extinction rate has only accelerated. We're living in the midst of an ever-worsening climate and ecological emergency, and the governments are failing in their duty of care. Governments will continually remind us, it's nice to make friends. Governments will continually remind us in the context of terrorism or when they're trying to build the case for another illegitimate war that it is their number one responsibility to take care of us. They are fundamentally failing on this issue, and we know that because we have people like Admiral Chris Barry, the former head of the Australian Defence Force, a man who's dedicated his life to national security and to analysing national security in the most rational and sober way possible. And he has said of the climate emergency, and I quote, "It is a near to mid-term existential threat to human civilization." Doesn't get more serious than that, folks. So what do? We've tried everything else. We've tried all the conventional methods. The only tool left in the toolbox is civil disobedience. It won't be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. And we can be hugely encouraged by the turnout at the recent global climate strike. Millions of people literally hit the streets. They're the sort of numbers we need. We just need to recruit those people, get those people to take the next step, and the data tells us we've got a good chance of succeeding. And I'll just quickly finish with a quote from Frederick Douglass, the former slave turned emancipationist, and it's something we nearly always need to remember, and that is that power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. Thank you.
Thank you, and a big thank you to Wonderful Counterweight for putting on and suggesting this, and a big thank you to our music, so fucking good, and dancing. Everybody, please have a dance because it's so good for your soul. I want to start by acknowledging that we are on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and sovereignty was never ceded. What this means to me is that this land is stolen. We are all benefiting from stolen land, and I know that our DJ said that, you know, we are all equal and we're all on a flat plane, but that is just not true. There are a lot of us here who have very different experiences of this world, and so it's important to recognise that and recognise our First Nations and refugees. I'd also like to acknowledge that we are in a climate and ecological emergency, and our First Nations people are often on the front line of that emergency as we're seeing what's happening in the Northern Territory. And it's really important that we support First Nation projects like what's happening with SEED. SEED are the Youth Indigenous group that operate out of Melbourne. They're currently running a campaign outside of Origin every Friday called Frack Off Fridays. So please go and support them every Friday morning. I'm going to keep this nice and short and sweet because we're all having too much fun to listen to me yabber on. But I just wanted to let you know that I normally plan very well for speeches, but this time I just really wanted to speak from the heart. And my heart says to me that this planet that we're on is heading to a place where it is not habitable for us anymore. Not just for us, but for all the animals and life and trees and birds. They're all heading for extinction. That's what Extinction Rebellion means. Extinction is everyone and everything. And that is unacceptable. That's unacceptable to me that we are, and our government is complicit in this. They know, and they have known for 30 years, for longer, that we are heading for this disaster path. And they consider resources like capital, imaginary money, more important than food for all of us. And so what Extinction Rebellion says is that we're not going to stand for that. And we're going to actually unite together, and we're going to sit on roads, and we're going to declare an emergency situation. And what happens in an emergency is that we put aside business as usual. And that's my story. So I was a student, I'm a philosopher, and I was driving around the country, having a good old time, living in my car, being a real hippie about it, and I was seeing that these properties that were supposed to be self-sustaining actually unable to grow food anymore. They were unable to sustain life, and that was because of the changing environment that we have here, and that really shook me up. And so I hit Melbourne, which is one of the top 10 activist cities in the world. Congratulations, Melbourne. And I've hooked in with amazing activists and people who've been working on this campaign to save our planet for so many years. And I want to really acknowledge those people who have spent their lives really working hard to save our planet. And Extinction Rebellion has come along with, we're an intersection of climate science and social science, so we've come along with this recipe to overthrow the government, legit. And that is through sacrifice. And that is through breaking the bystander effect. All right, I'll end up. So, we have 3 demands. 1, the government must declare a climate and ecological emergency and announce that emergency widely and broadly. Melbourne City Council have already declared a climate and biodiversity emergency. Does anybody know? No. So I think that needs to be declared and promoted to our governments. The second is zero emissions by 2025 and halting biodiversity loss. And the third is citizens' assemblies. So we need to have the decisions that have come through to save our planet come from the people. Our politics is broken, we know this. Our government cannot be trusted with this transition, and it cannot be trusted with a just transition. So I believe that if we come together and work like juries, yeah, we'll be able to solve it. All right, I'm going to end with a chant, and that's all I got for you. So repeat after me. Power to the people.
Power to the people.
People got the power.
People got the power.
Tell me, can you hear us?
Yes, we do.
Getting stronger by the hour.
Stronger by the hour.
Power.
Power.
People.
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 Power.
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 Power to the people.
Power to the people.
People got the power.
People got the power.
Tell me, can you hear us?
Tell me, can you hear us?
Getting stronger by the hour.
Stronger by the hour.
People.
People.
Power.
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 People.
People.
I love you all. Have an amazing time today. This is all about you having fun. We're going to be hitting the streets October 7 on Monday, so please come and join us. We'll be holding down in Carlton Gardens for a whole week. Bring your tent, and there's lots of fun activities going on, both arrestable and non-arrestable, but if you want to be on the front line, please join us. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye.
Big up, sister! That's right, power to the people. That's what reggae music's all about. Power to the people.